Welcome to the Black Eyed Barber Show. It's another one. We're still on lockdown, but we've got quite a few interesting guests for this week. Yeah, how's lockdown?
Lockdown is lockdown, man. I feel like I'm in jail.
Yeah, well, you know, it's like going to a sparring partner. You just have to make the best of your own time.
Like it's like being in the Poconos.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think a lot of fighters are probably finding it a bit easier than most, because when you're away as a sparring partner, that's life, isn't it? You just train, bed, walk, bed. So not much you can do.
Yeah.
Are you finding it over there, Dmitry? Because obviously you're in New York, which has been hit worse than anywhere in the States. What's the mood of everybody like there? How bad is it?
Oh, did we start? Are we talking or are we starting the interview?
Yeah, it's on the casual.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very casual. Okay, good.
Listen, it's not a police interview. Don't panic.
What was your question?
Just what's it like in New York at the moment for you? How's life there at the moment?
I'm actually in Michigan. I'm not in New York. But I went to the store. I went to the store today, and there's more cars than there were on the streets than there were 2 weeks ago. I even want to say more cars than even during regular times. Feels like people are very antsy and want to get out. Not a lot of people on the streets, but a lot of people on the road. A lot of people on the road. And yesterday I went out of the house as well, and in a different neighborhood, a lot of people on the road. So it seems to be that people are getting antsy, and based on what I see in the news, it seems that the numbers are going down. So that's a good thing, you know.
Yeah, me and Anthony were saying the same, because we're still on full lockdown, probably the same as what you are. But this weekend, there just seemed to be a lot more cars out and people moving around previous week. People are just starting to move more, which can also be a worry, can't it?
Yeah, and I think that some folks are probably taking the risk of intentionally taking the risk, but and kind of weighing the benefits, and sometimes mentally staying at home could be difficult on people. We'll see what happens. Hopefully things get back to normality, to relative normality in the near future.
How are you occupying your time?
I do a little bit of training myself, feel like in training camp, wake up, do some exercise, go for a bike ride or for a run, some shadow boxing. But been doing some work. We're expanding our stuff through social media. Our YouTube channel posted a lot of the fights from our library, and have doing some deals with other promoters. So on our YouTube channel, which is Salita Promotions, we have Clarissa Shields, Jarrell Miller, Wallin. Have some Vladimir Klitschko fights, Juan Urango, great fighters, and we're going to announce some of these deals in the near future. And I see, based on YouTube analytics, that these views are going through the roof. Boxing fans are really enjoying the content, enjoying great fights. So I'm happy that we're able to provide it. We're also doing a series called Train Like a Boxer, where our fighters like Clarissa and Otto and different fighters from around the world are doing at-home training videos where they do their routine that fans can follow along, and it kind of builds a relationship between the fighters and the fans, because everybody around the world is in the same situation. I'm here.
Does it not make you think that after the lockdown's over, after things hopefully get back to normal, that maybe YouTube and it's the way forward, isn't it? It's something that you could carry on with. It's not just, this is a good way to launch it, but it's something that probably people would carry on with.
That seems to be true. And if you think about it, it's hard to predict, but movie theaters, restaurants, sporting events, concerts, you think to yourself, well, are people going to take the risk of going to these things, or how soon, and in what areas? So I feel that a lot of people are going to tune to the internet for entertainment and for content, and a lot of the times that are taken up by entertainment out of the house, like Friday night and Saturday night, I think that a lot of folks are going to be at home looking for fun things to watch.
Yeah, I think that for me and Anthony, Nicole was saying the other day, I've got two girls at 16 and 18, Dmitry, and they've been off now for 4 weeks, and they've not watched you know what you would call network TV or terrestrial. They just don't watch it. Everything they're looking for is on YouTube or Netflix. They just don't watch what we call traditional television channels anymore at that age.
Yeah, no, it's life is moving in a different direction, and this pandemic made the search faster, and it's where people get their content. Look, I'm talking to you now on my phone, on my iPhone, and I've never heard of Zoom before, and recently, every day I have a conference on Zoom, one way or another. So it's new technology is getting used, and people are, a lot of times during these times of crises, people come up with new ideas, and kind of the world moves forward in different ways, different inventions, different ways to kind of progress humanity to the next level, and our productivity to be able to function, this way.
I think what we need to do to really launch this YouTube channel you've got to get Crawler to do a training session, and then Johnny to do one.
I got to get Johnny Nelson, because I remember seeing Johnny Nelson.
You've got to get Johnny
at the Barclays Center when it feels like when Jarrell Miller fought somebody.
Yeah. When, that was right. It was one of the Miller fights. God, that's a while ago, man. Jesus. Yeah, but remember, I'm an old man, but so don't be trying to give me a heart attack. I'll have it though.
I think it's when Jarrell fought Gerald Washington, and it's great. It's great to see Johnny's personality on TV and on the internet, but seeing it live is like nothing like it. You know what I mean? So I look forward to coming back to big fights and seeing you around. Corona free.
Big time.
With a Corona beer, but not the virus.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I think Crawler's athlete are our gang, so we'll get him to do a video.
Let's do it.
You mentioned, obviously, now you're promoting shows. We were just talking about it earlier about boxing shows going ahead behind closed doors, similar to what the UFC is talking. Do you ever think about putting on a boxing show, like sort of stream it online, on YouTube or even on television with backing without the crowd in? Would you think about that as a promoter?
Yeah, we are thinking about it, and I'm having discussions with venues and with different, with venues and with networks about the situation, because I feel like we are, yeah, because I feel like in the near future, I feel like the first wave of return, that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah. Possibly
things are going to open up with fans sooner than later, but it's just such a guessing game. But I think seems to be that more testing is going to be available, so the safe way forward, at least for the first kind of June, July, maybe parts of August, is to kind of plan events this way.
Yeah.
What's this testing situation in the States now, Dmitry? Because in Britain we're still not developing. We haven't got enough tests to go around yet for the medical staff. So
as of now, from what I hear, there are not enough tests. But I think that, from what I understand, from what I read, there's new developments with like mouth swabs that may be available, where people can get tested and get results in a quick amount of time. So if those are available, maybe that will be possible. I mean, obviously you need a great quantity of that, but maybe for events, if it's a fast return, maybe for events, fans can get the test before they come into the building. That could be a great thing. But from what I understand, there's real talk of events happening on television in mid to late June, and with testing of all participants, the fighters, the trainers, the commissioners, TV folks. So that's a fair amount of tests, and I've heard that may not be available now, but it's moving in that direction.
Fingers crossed.
Where are you guys at? Are you guys in London?
Well, we spread out sort of north of England, Manchester, and
Manchester.
Sheffield boys.
Nice. How's Ricky Hatton doing?
Ricky Hatton, yeah, Ricky's being Ricky, but he's obviously, I think it's isolation. Like everyone, he's sort of just staying at home, but I think he's doing him some good. You know, he's every day on social media. He's out running, or he's running in his gym, his house. So he looks well for it. But Ricky's got his own stable of fighters now. He's got stable of fighters, and he's got amazing knowledge to pass on. And
oh yeah, for sure.
I'm sure he's going to have some, champions. Well, he already has done, but I think we'll see a lot more of his fighters in the future. But
Nice.
I was going to say, Dmitry, obviously now you've retired and you're staying, ticking over. Fit. I've recently retired. Obviously, the boys, they've been retired. What's your, do you miss the sport as a fighter, or you being the promoter, working with the top fighters now, does that satisfy that hunger?
I want to kind of cover a couple of things with my answer. A lot of times, I've seen it since I was a kid. You see fighters that were like super fit and great shape, and then they retire. Like literally 3 years go by and they're up 100 pounds.
Yes.
Their face changes. Their feet seems to be that their bone structure changes, and they just really get out of shape, and then they get all kinds of ailments and diseases and all that stuff. And that's and I've seen it so many times. Terrible thing. So I feel I've been boxing since I'm 13 years old, and training pretty seriously, running in the morning, going to the gym, eating right, every day for years. Twice a day, and as you know. So, and obviously, at some point you get tired of it and achy, and you take a little break. But I found for myself that if I don't exercise, if I don't eat right, I just don't think, I don't function right. I don't feel well. I don't think right. My mood is down. So, so I feel that for my sanity and for my health, I need to exercise. And obviously not close to the intensity that I did when I was fighting. However, once in a while, I still get in there and box if the opportunity is right, and go to the boxing gym when I can. But I train 5 to 6 times a week, every week. At least 30, 40 minutes, usually an hour, but at least 30, 40 minutes. Just a run, a ride, yeah, for sure. And I feel so much better off for it. But as far as curbing my hunger for boxing, I love boxing, and I've been involved with it since I was a kid, and always was very serious about it. Of course, you get ideas of coming back and ideas of fighting, and you want to get that feeling. And when you're doing it, you don't realize how precious the feeling of winning is and getting ready for a fight, and there's almost nothing like it to be able to repeat that high of being victorious, of getting ready for a fight and having what you wanted accomplished in such a way. There's nothing like it. But I feel that I'm blessed to be involved in the sport of boxing, and to really have a job that's really my hobby, my passion.
You seem to describe an amazing story of many, many fighters, of how we manage, how we survive once we've stepped out of the ring. And it's pretty good advice for many ex-fighters, should I say, to try and keep ticking over, to keep that sanity going. And the ones that don't do it seem to struggle and fall by the wayside.
And people, boxing fans, this probably goes for all sports, but I can only really talk about boxing. You're done fighting. If you were fighting at a high level, you dedicate your whole life to boxing. You live a certain schedule, and then all of a sudden you wake up and you're just a regular guy. You're a civilian, right? And you don't have the tools to really deal with life in a civilian type of way because you were an athlete. You were always different, and you live life differently. So it's there's like a buffer system of being able to not get too down on yourself and to be able to pick yourself up and find yourself again. That's a difficult thing to do. To find yourself, hopefully without falling down too much, and and being broken into pieces. Because it's, I mean, I'm speaking from my personal experience. It's a very difficult process and journey of being able to find yourself and being able to transfer into life after boxing. So it's a beautiful thing for me to see different fighters on different levels being able to do that, because I know that I know what it takes.
You moved pretty quickly, Dmitry, into promoting. You boxed with Amir Khan in 2009, and then in 2011 you'd already launched your promotional company. But that's
2010.
2010.
Well, 2010 September 1st was my first show, but I used somebody else's license because I couldn't get licensed, but it was my event.
Really?
So, was that something you'd been considering for a while before you finished, or did it just hit you as soon as you decided to finish?
Well, here's the story. Here's the truth. I fought Amir Khan, physically the easiest fight of my life. I wanted to get back in the ring right away because I didn't feel physically damaged anyway. And my contract was did you guys lose me?
Yeah, just like we can hear you, but your face is gone.
Yeah, because I'm getting a call. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Sorry, hold on.
No problem. Yeah, okay, pal.
Sorry.
No problem.
Sorry. So I wanted. Should we start from the beginning, or you guys were out of this? Or is this live?
So you started promoting in 2010.
Yeah.
Were it something you were considering, or just jumped straight into it? What was it, part of a bigger plan?
Well, I was thinking about promoting my fights. Maybe a year or two before I started to actually do it. A year or two before the Amir Khan fight. I had the honor of being signed to Top Rank, some of the best promoters in boxing for my pro debut. Then I was with DeBella, I fought for Golden Boy. Then I was with Square Ring. It was really a break off of Don King, because many of the Don King's employees formed that company. So I was exposed to a really high level of boxing from my first fight. I always observed, always asked questions, formed relationships, and always had an opinion about some things that were done one way, but I kind of had my own opinion about it. Anyway, so after I lost to Amir, I wanted to fight right away. I got a release from my contract ended, and I was meeting with different promoters and different managers, and it just didn't click, And I was thinking to myself, well, I have a great fan base in New York City. I have, media relationships. Why don't I try to do it by myself? And from the time that I made the decision till the fight which was September 1st, 5 weeks, and it was televised on TJC, which is a local New York network, and it was a great success. It was sold out, and it was profitable. And on those club shows, it's very difficult to be profitable. So, and then promote a couple of events that I fought on. Louis Collazo fought on my show. Frank Galarza, Jarrell Miller, a lot of good fighters. And Jarrell has fought on an event that I was promoting in his second professional fight. And I saw this guy. He was like 19, 20 years old. And I was like, man, this guy is the next heavyweight champ, man. He was athletic. He was fast. He had a great personality. And I was just so surprised that none of the bigger promoters would sign him. And at that time, before I didn't really sign fighters, and people would ask me, who is the best unsigned fighter in New York City? And before they would finish talking, I'd say Jarrell Miller. And Golden Boy started doing stuff at the Barclays Center. DeBella was pretty active back then. And I would tell anyone who wanted to listen about how great Jarrell was. And then, then we started kind of take our shows to the next level. And Jarrell asked to fight on some of our events, and we worked out a deal, and I signed him. And the rest is history.
You got the bug.
Yes, got the book.
How many fighters you currently got now, Dmitry?
Probably about 30.
30 fighters. Wow.
Yeah, we got a lot.
You've got a lot of hungry fighters and you're wanting to get to work as soon as it's over.
You know, we work with a lot of fighters from the former Soviet Union, Russia, Uzbekistan, Ukraine. Great school of boxing. Professional boxing is relatively new over there.
Yeah.
But the amateur school of boxing is fantastic, and they have great fundamentals and great work ethic, and really know how to take care of themselves and take care of their bodies. So maybe the next Mayweather, the next Manny Pacquiao is going to come out of, or next Mike Tyson going to come out of that part of the world.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so, and let's hope you get him. So let's go to Jarrell Miller. What were the journey like with him, bringing him through, bringing him like more or less all the way towards the Joshua fight? That like?
Well, you know, at the Joshua press conference, which was at Madison Square Garden, thought to myself, Jarrell, I've noticed Jarrell here in a second professional fight at Roseland Ballroom, which is about. Sorry, there's trucks outside.
Okay.
You guys okay? It's okay.
Yeah.
Which was about a 15-minute walk from the Garden. And after I saw Jarrell fight in the second professional fight, without working with him, I said, Jarrell, you're next heavyweight champion of the world. And to being able to go through all those steps from being really a 4-round fighter and getting him to fight for the undisputed heavyweight world title against Anthony Joshua, feel really special to me. And I was very happy. And I felt that Jarrell had all the tools to beat Anthony Joshua. And I was at the Garden June 1st when Andy Ruiz scored the upset. I was like, man, that could have been Jarrell.
What was that like for you, not just as a promoter, but as somebody who come through and knew him so well when obviously it all failed all the tests? What was that like psychologically to deal with and pick yourself back up? For you, it must have been like being punched with a sledgehammer, mustn't it?
No, I mean, I felt quite disappointed when I first heard about what happened initially, but what I learned as a fighter, had a lot of bigger fights that you think are going to happen that don't happen, is that you can't count on it until the fighters step into the ring. So I was disappointed. I wasn't crushed, but it just wasn't meant to be, and it's unfortunate and it's tough to accept, but that's what it was.
How have you found the transition from the fight game now to being the other side, the business side of the road? How do you find the transition? Because certain find that transition, they've got to stop thinking like a fighter and start thinking like the promoters they used to operate under. Have you found that?
It's a process, and I enjoy it because I love boxing. It's really special for me to get kind of a really 360 view, and a lot of the relationships that I had as a fighter, now I'm communicating with many of those people, but as a promoter on a different side, and the communication is different and the conversation is different. So it obviously doesn't just happen, but I feel like being a fighter and, from every way, from having to make weight, from going away to training camp, from negotiating with a promoter about my purse, and sometimes feeling that you're not getting your just due, and having those, from growing up, in the gyms with some great fighters and kind of understanding the mentality and a lot of the spiders that we have in our head related to promoters and to the boxing the business. It's a lot of the stereotypes and things like that. So I lived it most of my life. So as a fighter, so I think that helps me to communicate, to communicate with the fighters. And it's funny because sometimes I go to press conferences now, and every couple of years the media guys change, and many of them don't know that I fought. So they come to me and they ask, and they don't they don't talk to me about my fighting days. They just talk to me about like when it's Clarissa fighting, when it's this, when it's that, and it's awkward for me because I feel like you don't know. You know?
But in a way, you should kind of take that as a compliment because they're respecting you in your new role. And forgetting you had a role and you had a successful life before that as a fighter. That probably means you're actually not doing bad as a promoter.
Yeah, sure it does. I'm just saying personally. Sometimes it's just a it just takes some of these things to happen for yourself to understand the switch. You know what I mean? Yeah. For yourself to understand your new position and your new kind of role in the business. I see some great. I see Johnny Nelson. I see some great pictures in the background over there, man.
Oh, sorry.
No, don't apologize. It's great. It's like a museum.
Yeah, it is.
Dmitry,
Sorry, go on. Sorry, Carl.
No, sorry, Dmitry. Do you know, knowing what you know now about the business side of the sport, if you had sort of the backing from the start of your career, would have you took control of your career? I know you worked, like you say, you was on Golden Boy shows, you was on with DeBella, with the breakaway from Don King. Would have you took control of your career from the very start, knowing what you know now?
Oh yeah, they would have definitely would have been better off. They say, what does it say? Youth is wasted on the young. Is that how it goes? So of course, the experiences and the understandings and the certain stereotypes that I had about some promoters and about the way things work, and just growing up in the gyms and you just hear different, but I feel like it's changing now because things are because the truth is more evident and things are becoming more public and people are talking about things. So I think fighters are more educated now than they were 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. But like I grew up in Star City Boxing Club. Danny Jacobs, Shannon Briggs, Monte Barrett, Travis Sims, Louis Collazo, Saddam Ali, and a bunch of other guys that were great fighters that never made it to that level.
Yeah.
So, I obviously cooked in that atmosphere since I was a kid, and I understand, and I'm part of it myself. Sometimes you feed into certain fighter mentality and kind of a mindset against the Don King and against the Barber, and feeling that they're like, that they're one way and you're another way, and somebody's always trying to get you,
Yes.
But then it's not, but it's not always like that. You obviously have to protect yourself at all times, as they say. But I think that knowing what I know now, I would have made smarter decisions and probably been more flexible in some ways.
Yeah.
For sure. And I'm happy, and I'm happy to look back and to accept my shortcomings that I had back then. I mean, I was a kid.
Yes.
And it's good. It's part of life.
Of course, learning.
We were talking just before you on, Dmitry. We were talking about the potential of an Andy Ruiz, Dillian White fight and other fights that are getting spoke about. Where do you see Jarrell now when he comes back? Where do you fit in the heavyweight picture? How far he'll be?
I think he needs a fight or two to come back and to get himself sharp again. But I think Jarrell is the best heavyweight in the world. I think that Jarrell. Jarrell Miller is the best heavyweight in the world. Otto Wallin is the best heavyweight in the world. And the best young American heavyweight in the world is Jermaine Franklin. So those are the top three. And I have the honor and the pleasure of being involved with all three of them to some extent. So I think that Jarrell versus Tyson Fury would be like the best pay-per-view build-up of all time. Can you imagine?
I think you're right.
You guys going up?
Do you think Jarrell now has? It's not just about the physical attributes or the skill. It's about the mental side of it. Do you think he has all the attributes now to get him over the line, to get himself over the line? You have to learn a harsh lesson in that game, and it seems like he's had to learn them.
I think so. I mean, sometimes we all go through stuff and we grow, and we make certain decisions and resolves within ourselves. And obviously, only time will tell. But I think that he's made that resolution, and and he's going to be better off for it. And he has a couple of years left of being at the peak of his career. And we did a deal with ESPN with Top Rank, and both in the Tyson Fury family. So I believe that fight has all the, is online to happen at some time if they're both victorious, and want it to happen, and I think they both do.
Makes sense.
Must be the climbing the walls.
And I think Jarrell's style and his size will give Tyson Fury a lot of trouble.
Well, he were close to coming back, weren't he? So this must be another pushback for Jarrell Money, because he were on his way back and probably would have to have boxed sometime around now, wouldn't he, already?
Well, I mean, Aram said that they're gonna start coming back in June, and they're gonna do a couple of shows a week. So I believe that Jarrell, maybe done some of those early returns. Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Did you guys what do you guys think about Otto Wallin?
Listen, he gave a great account of himself, didn't he? He gave a great account of himself against the big man. It's not many people. And listen, with a bit of luck, some referees would have called that fight.
Yeah.
It's I thought he certainly gave a great account of himself, and there's other big fights out there for the big man.
So he was supposed to fight Lucas Brown March 28th, but he hurt his foot training, and then obviously with the corona happening, everything got canceled. But he also had corona. He actually just got tested, and he got the antibodies for it. But he'll be back to train. Yeah. Hopefully we can get him back in the ring sometime soon.
Are you still managing to motivate your fighters to still be doing something to keep themselves in relatively good shape while all this is going on?
Yeah, communicate with many of them. I mean, Clarissa, she's posting. She also has a YouTube channel, social media. She's posting on videos of training. She's staying in shape. Otto Wallin staying in shape.
Yeah.
Shogjikhan Gashev, all the way in Uzbekistan, staying in shape. So everybody's staying active. I mean, most guys are staying active, but there's nothing like being in a boxing gym and being in the atmosphere and staying sharp. I think, I was just thinking about it. A lot of times, the champions get a last minute call and they fight some guys that are kind of B-level fighters, and those guys haven't been in the gym. So the champions have the upper hand because they've been training. They're sharp. But now everybody's in the same boat. Everybody has been training, like for real training. So we may see some great fights, even with fights that are supposed to be give me's type of thing.
Yeah.
The playing field may be more equal.
Yeah. You may see a few upsets because it's a great leveler where everybody now has the same amount of time to prepare themselves or to keep themselves relatively fit. But it's about their mental professionalism in regards to how they nurture themselves in this time.
Yeah. Sure. Dmitry, you mentioned, and I'm sure we was going to get onto it, but you mentioned Clarissa Shields there. I just wanted to ask you, when did you first become aware of Clarissa Shields? For me, I was at the London 2012 Olympics. The US team had the holding camp in Bolton. And so I first seen her, I think she was 17 years old, Clarissa, in the 2012 Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And I seen her sparring, and honestly, I'll never forget it. To this day, I remember phoning all my friends, saying, listen, you've got to get some money on this girl winning the gold medal. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know if I've told the boys or not, but she ended up having to do some rounds in Marcus Brown and stuff like that, because there was other girls from other countries there. And it was something I'd never seen before. In a female fight, obviously we've seen Katie Taylor, but I'd never seen Katie up close and other Olympians. But I knew, sort of watching her then, she was a very, very special talent. I know you're in Michigan now, and I know you sort of spent a lot of time in Brooklyn coming up. Like, when did you first become aware of Clarissa Shields?
So on Fridays, for years, I buy the Wall Street Journal just to read over the weekend. Yeah. And sometime before the 2016 Olympics, I bought. It was in It was in May, sometime in May. I bought the paper, and there was like a short story about Clarissa, and it was when Hillary Clinton was running for president here in the United States. And women empowerment and awareness was at an all-time high. And I read the story about Clarissa from Flint, Michigan, Olympic gold medalist, amateur world champion, all this stuff. I was like, man, this is the best fighter coming out of the Olympics.
Unreal.
And this is before she won a second Olympic gold. And I was already in Michigan. I tried to reach out, make some connections with folks to get to her. I even spoke with Showtime about her without ever connecting to her, and they've expressed some interest and whatever, but she won her second Olympic gold medal, and then I finally was able to connect with her I believe in November or December after her pro debut, and I made the connection with her and with Showtime, and she was the first woman in the history of the sport to be a main event on a premium cable network television, which was Showtime.
Yeah.
And she fought here at MGM Detroit, which was the first time they had a boxing event that was sold out, and and the rest is history. And her direction to me has always been, I want to fight the best fighters out there. I want every fight to be a story.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it takes someone with that kind of intent and initiative to be able to drive the sport to the next level. And and Katie Taylor is a great fighter. Cecilia Brækhus is a great fighter.
Yeah.
But Clarissa has really been the driving force of women's boxing, and the reason why the other ones are fighting on television and are making as much money as they are is because of Clarissa, in my opinion.
You reckon we might see her over here in the UK? I know there's a lot of talk on social media with Savannah Marshall. Obviously, I think Savannah's the only fight she lost as an amateur when she was young. You reckon there's a chance we could see her over to the UK, or Clarissa being a big star in the US, Savannah will have to travel to the US?
Well, Clarissa just did the World Training Camp in the UK.
Yes, she did.
Sometime in February. Yeah. And she's became good friends with Hannah Rankin, who we also work with, who Clarissa fought. But definitely, Clarissa wants to fight Savannah Marshall. Clarissa's contract to fight Marie DeCare for the undisputed 154-pound world title. That fight was supposed to happen May 9th, but obviously things got postponed. But I mean, it's challenging to fight big, meaningful fights for Clarissa. And I think if I was Savannah Marshall, is something that can get public attention. I feel like Savannah got to get a couple of more wins and got to get some quality wins in her belt and get a little of a name out there, get herself a world title. That would make it much more meaningful, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's been quite a bit of talk in the media and on social media and stuff, Dmitry, about her boxing. And I've seen Mark put it out there a couple of times about her boxing, Layla Ali. Is that something that you're realistically looking at, or is it a realistic possibility, do you think?
I think it is a realistic possibility. I mean, and I think Mark has been the head of HBO pay-per-view for decades and participated in some of the biggest fights ever. Actually, the biggest fights ever, many of them. And what I believe is, if it gets made, then it has a potential to be a great pay-per-view attraction. If it gets made, I don't know. Clarissa, would she sign the contract today? But Layla, some days I feel that she's using Clarissa to just be relevant and kind of get her name out there. Other days I want to believe that she wants to fight Clarissa, but seems to be that the opposite is true. Seems to be that she just wants to stay relevant and kind of and use this. I think so. I mean, she's a very accomplished fighter. Obviously, the daughter of the greatest athlete of all time. So, would be a great event. And Layla did great things when she was fighting. But really, the ball's in her court.
What do you think,
the glove is on her hand.
What do you think, Johnny?
I think it's right. I think once you say these things, to throw your hat in the ring, keeps yourself relevant. But in reality, it'd be exciting to watch, be intriguing to watch. And again, it puts women's boxing on the map massively, even bigger.
Some people have said to me, because she's been out a good few years now, and she Layla, and she's 43, mother of 2 or 3 kids, that maybe she shouldn't do that.
Hold on, guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, if
What's
she
your
should,
first thought to that? What do you think to that criticism?
if she should, yeah, if she should or shouldn't, that's her decision. And if she shouldn't, that's obviously perfectly fine. And then that's what she should say. She should say that I'm older and I'm whatever. And in my day, she could express herself honestly and say what she feels she would have done against Clarissa back in her day. I say I'm not of the age to be able to do that. That's fine, right? That's as long as you're honest. But she's saying that she is in shape, and if she would train, she would, get the better of Clarissa. So it's she really knows better than anybody else what she's capable of, and
how
she
real
believes
do
in
you think
herself.
it is? How real do you think it is?
So she was here on, she was on ESPN, she was on Sway in the morning, she was on all the top radio stations. The papers wrote about it. So it got a lot of exposure and a lot of interest, and boxing fans and people that are not even boxing fans. I mean, people ask me about it all the time. How real is it? I gotta say, we haven't had any real material discussions with her team. There was a little talk, but nothing like. Yeah, there was no real discussions about anything tangible. So same thing with Cecilia Brækhus. Some months ago, she was talking about Clarissa, and then we reached out to representatives, and it was like, when the phone rings and then it goes to message, and like that 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
Dmitry, how big? I know, like say you mentioned she's been on Showtime, like sort of the first female fighter to do it to main event. Outside of Flint, Michigan, and this isn't in any way disrespectful because she's a superstar.
Sure.
Is she that big around the US? Is she becoming known around the whole of the US? Will she get big gates, big numbers at shows?
Well, so in Flint, she would do great numbers. She would do really, really big numbers. In Atlantic City, her last fight and her fight with Christina Hammer did several thousand fans. Did really good. I mean, with Christina Hammer, she fought at Boardwalk Hall, which is a really pretty famous boxing venue.
Yes.
Last fight against Ivana Habazin was at Oceans Resort and Casino. We did a couple of thousand tickets.
Yeah. Good numbers.
Yeah, good numbers. Right after New Year's, January 10th. So, people are, boxing may not be on their mind, but it was pretty good. I was, so obviously with each fight, she's getting better and more popular.
Yeah.
They're making a movie about her that is going to be in theaters. Ice Cube was in Flint in March at Burston Fieldhouse where she grew up. So all these things are obviously going to take her, make her bigger than boxing. Yeah, for sure. And we strategically on our early fights made sure that she fought close to home. Fought in Detroit, tried to make a fight in Flint.
Build that local fan base. Really important. I mean, important for many fighters, not for all fighters, but for many fighters. And I feel like Clarissa, has that potential to be someone who's going to be able to fill arenas full of fans. Yes.
If the Ali fight doesn't materialise and she gets the next out of the way, what are the big names? What are the other names that she's chasing, Dmitry? Who have you got back?
So we've just made the biggest fight that there is that we can make for her, which is against Marie Dicaire for the unified 154-pound title. We'd consider Savannah Marshall. We consider Cecilia Brækhus. I don't know if she wants to do it. I think Marshall really wants to do it, but she has to just raise her profile. But I think that she generally wants to do it. There's some up-and-coming contenders and fighters that may pique fans' interest, but it is a challenge to make the really meaningful fights for sure.
Yeah.
And and I feel like this Corona pandemic hurt the growth of women's boxing more than men's sports and men's boxing, because men's boxing is already established. When things get back to normal, everything's going to go back to normal. People are going to, but women's boxing is still growing. And Clarissa, fighting these big fights that get fans interested, historic fights, that's what really drives the sport to the next level. And, that kind of hit a road bump because of this, what we're going through. But, yeah.
She's obviously stayed in gym, and she'll be, it's like we say over here, the first up is the best dressed. So she stayed in the gym and kept herself fit. She'll be hopefully on one of the first shows back.
Hopefully, yeah.
Fingers crossed. So before we let you, Dmitry, and get on with the rest of your day, tell me your top 5 heavyweights in order.
My 5 what?
Your top 5 heavyweights in order.
Heavyweights.
Today.
Well, it has to be Muhammad Ali.
No.
Today.
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 Current fighters.
I mean, it's an unfair question because I have Jarrell.
No,
and Jermaine, so it's not. So I'm biased. So it's not really. Ask me about another way, for real. Ask me something more general, because it's not. You know what I mean?
Do you know what? I've got a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've got a question for you. You mentioned before about growing up in the gym with some great fighters, Danny Jacobs, Louis Collazo, and so on. You mentioned some great fighters. Out of all those fighters, tell us who's the most talented. Who did you think, he's going to go on and be a superstar?
I was just talking about this with somebody. I'll tell you, before I get, the hardest puncher by like miles is Curtis Stevens.
The hardest puncher. Wow. Chin checker. He was one of the chin checkers.
Chin checkers, that's right. Yep.
Remember.
But J-Don, who was the other chin checker.
Yeah, whatever happened to J-Don?
Well, he fought in a contender.
Yes, of course.
He lost to Alan Green, and he fought in a contender. He lives in Atlanta now. He's a police officer.
But he was talented. He was super talented.
Super talented, yeah. But he came to Star City later. Like, he didn't grow up with us. He came in towards the end of his amateur career. I mean, he grew up with us, but he didn't grow up with us, like, completely.
Yes.
Curtis was in Star City since he's 11 years old. So I used to spar with Curtis when we were both 95 pounds.
Yeah.
And, 90, 95, 100, 106, 112.
Yeah.
And when Curtis was a kid, he used to lay kids out like they were shot. Like, he was Mike Tyson. I mean, he was just such a big puncher. I mean, the hardest I ever been hit in sparring or in a fight was by Curtis Stevens.
Yeah.
But as far as that talent pool, I thought that when I was Louis is a year older than I am. And when Louis was like 15, 16 years old, he used to box with men. And he used to box with Zab Judah. He used to box with Travis and Tarvis Sims. He used to box with different fighters. I mean, he was just still 16, 17 years old. So I felt that Louis had the tools to be a great fighter.
Yeah.
He obviously became a world champion. And obviously Danny Jacobs. Well, Danny, he first was trained by this trainer. His name was Victor Roundtree, who passed away from diabetes. But Danny was also very talented, also at 15, 16, 17 years old, boxing with men, top pros. Danny and I were around the same weight at some, he was when he was 16, 17 years old. So I did loads of rounds with Danny. Very talented. But, then Danny got sick and he was out of the gym for a while. He lost, then he got sick. And so I wasn't sure if he'd be able to come back to that level, But amazing strength of a human being. To be able to recover like that and to come back to higher levels than he ever was truly incredible. So, Danny obviously as well. Saddam Ali, U.S. Olympian. There's a guy he was a kid, but when Star City closed, he left. His nickname is Shushu. He just made the U.S. Olympic team at 126 pounds, also from Star City Boxing Club.
Right.
Really great pack of talent and pack of fighters that I grew up with. Monte Barrett.
Yeah.
Who did Monte beat by upset? Did Monte beat Joe Messi? Did he beat Joe Messi?
Yeah.
Joe Messi.
Yes.
Joe Messi. Yeah. Monte, man, the heart hard the size of New York State.
Do you still keep in touch with
and
them?
and I stay in touch with friends on Instagram, friends on Facebook. It's funny because Monte Barrett and Shannon Briggs, even though they both from Stars City Boxing Club, they had a lot of they beef with one another.
Right.
So it was pretty intense moments in the gym. You guys are bringing back memories. So that boxing gym had, even though it was one gym, it had like 5 different trainers, and everybody had their own team. And it was like, even though it was one gym, but it was really like a gym, 5 gyms inside gyms. Yeah. When we go away to tournaments, we were all together and we have felt like a team. But inside the gym, everybody wanted to kill each other,
Yeah, sparring was interesting.
That sounds a bit like the
sparring was interesting, man. Yes, for sure. So I think that that iron sharpens iron, as they say, and that's what pushed. It killed some, but it made stronger others.
Yeah.
The ones that made. But that's what boxing is.
The trainers within the gym, were they split in the gym? Did they
Norma Lorick, Andrew Rozier, started in Stars City Boxing Club. Jimmy O was the director. There was a Russian trainer. His name was Yasha Springer. Yoel Judah, not always in the gym, but many times would come and bring his guys once a week.
Yeah.
They would get a lot of boxing. And Stars City Bed-Stuy Boxing Club, which was in the mid to late 90s, the top 3 boxing gyms in New York City were Stars City, Bed-Stuy, and Gleason's Gym.
Yeah.
But Bed-Stuy closed. Stars City just closed several years ago, and Gleason's is still around. But I feel like the level of boxing, because there's 2 sides to the coin, but because everything is much more organized and much more sanctioned, and our gym, Star City Boxing, was in a basement. There was no air conditioning in the summertime, and there was no heat in the winter. There was no water, there was no bathroom, there was no changing room. I mean, it was makeshift, and that's how you make it or not. That's what boxing is. That's the lifestyle, right? So, but now nothing close to that can exist in New York City. So
no, health and safety is taken over.
Health and safety is taken over. Yeah, which is good. Obviously, it's good, but it comes with not breeding that type of talent and grit that those situations
Do you still follow amateur boxing as much, Dmitry? Do you still keep an eye on it? Do you still look at the kids coming through?
Amateur boxing is a bloodline of the sport. Most important to, when I sign somebody, I mean, 9.9 out of 10 times, if they were a good amateur, that's a precursor to them being a good pro. Because amateur boxing means, if you're successful in amateur boxing, that means that you can deal with the stress of life, with breakups and debts and financial hardships and all that stuff, and still be successful. So, and it's like a resume for success is amateur boxing, and amateur boxing very important for a healthy sport.
Do you think it's still as strong in the States as it was yourself? Do you think it has declined?
Amateur boxing?
Yeah.
I think it's declined. I think amateur boxing all over the world has declined somewhat, maybe.
Yeah. I think in Britain,
some countries.
Be professional. It is a professional job, isn't it?
Yeah, but other countries like Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, they pay their top amateur good money, so a lot of guys choose to stay amateur than instead of turning pro.
Yeah, we've got.
What I do see from the elite amateur tournaments is that the boxers are becoming better athletes. They seem to be more athletic and more fit, just on a sportsman level. That has changed from when I was around. But all right, guys.
All right. Well, we'll let you carry on with the rest of your day.
Take care.
Thank you.
Nice
to communicate with you. All right, perfect. I look forward to being back on. Yeah.
I'll see you soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care, man.
Bye-bye, Dmitry.
Bye. Bye. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.